Hey everybody, Marty Sleva here, and we are going to do a little rewind on the latest Final Fantasy 15 trailer. This is the trailer that debuted during the last active time report, and this is the Niflheim base infiltration. It's this cool mission that's showing a lot of stealth. It's showing our first use of magic, some new combat abilities, and a new UI. So let's scrub back to the beginning and get to all the little secrets of this guy. So you see right off the get-go, the UI's definitely evolved since even we saw in episode Dusky. You have in the bottom right sort of a cleaner view of Noctis, Prompto, Ignis, and Gladiolus, and their HP and their MP. In the upper right-hand corner, we have a radar. It's pretty simple, sort of just tells you points where north is, and then enemies will appear on it. You also have a little moon above that, which I imagine is just showing the time of day. Obviously, this base infiltration is at night, so there's a cool moon. In the bottom left, you have your four weapons, which are designated by the D-pad. You have your sort of regular Buster Sword. You have the Zweihander to the left. You have a sort of a Dragoon Lance, Wyvern Lance to the right. And then you have this other bar, this blue bar on top, which is going to sort of fill up like a limit break bar, and we'll get into more of that later. Here you have Ignis stopping Noctis, and sort of the way Tabata-san described this demo is we go into it very stealthily, but the whole, the point of this thing is to destroy this base completely, and so if you want to go in guns a-blazing, which you do eventually go guns a-blazing in a little bit, you can totally do that, and so we get our first look at a lot of the stealth, a lot of the cover mechanics, and also the fact that, there's this giant mech, it's this Magitech armor, which obviously Magitech armor is something that's been in the series for 20 years, but it definitely looks like it has this Metal Gear vibe to it, and you noticed the spotlight that's sort of washing across. Not only does it show cool lighting, but it seems like that spotlight's going to be, hey, if you step in the spotlight, all the alarms are going to go off, and you're going to have to kill everything in sight. So it's definitely going to be wise to sort of stick to the shadows and remain in cover. We also have this giant red sort of energy sphere, or energy spear, and that seems to be the thing that's powering the Niflheim base. So Niflheim's the warring factions, the kingdom that's against King Regis and Noctis and Luna, and they're super technologically advanced. They were the ones who created the automobile in the world of Final Fantasy 15. The Henry Ford of Final Fantasy 15. I made that up. They are not the Henry Fords of Final Fantasy 15. But so yeah, as we're going through space, you're going to see a lot. You see these troops, these robots that have these huge arms, and you see this Magitech armor, and we're getting a little look of the different things we're able to do and how we're able to warp now just to navigate the battlefield, to navigate the environment, but to also, we see here, Noctis is popping up there, getting a better view of the scenario, still hasn't gotten hit by the light yet, but we're also seeing how warp works in terms of stealth kills. You see here, he's crawling up the steps a little bit, and he's about to take off this Imperial Rifleman in a one-hit shot. Doesn't instigate any battle, doesn't alert the guards, just takes them out right away. And you see it filled up that little blue bar on the left just a little bit with each kill, so we're going to see a little more of that. But we see Warp here as well, popping down and sort of treating these three enemies in frame kind of like a puzzle. And so you do a Warp kill to get yourself down there. He pops to the left, kills the other guard immediately, and then very quickly goes right up the stairs, kills the third guard. And again, you see that meter on the left hand going up the entire time. But yes, while the best laid intentions were to remain in the shadows, that quickly goes awry. So we get caught. We see the sort of the red bar appear at the top of the screen, which means, hey, combat is about to occur. You see this other sort of reddish orange bar to the left up here as well. This is when we get into battle. You see there's a really cool moment here where this thing gets completely destroyed by gunfire. We're going to see a lot of environmental destruction later on in the demo, which is really cool. It just adds some sort of energy and liveliness to the environments. And then we take a look here, and we get a new look at combat, and the combat is much faster, much more frantic, much more sort of operatic than what we even saw in episode Dusky. And you see here we have a lot of things that are throwbacks to stuff we saw in like 2011 in the original Final Fantasy Versus 13 footage. Right here you see these swords. All of Noctis's blades are sort of spinning around him, which was one of the first, honestly, like some of the first imagery we saw from Versus 13. And the way Noctis is fighting, just sort of maintaining in the air and sort of juggling enemies, it's a lot like late game Kingdom Hearts 2 or something like Bayonetta or DMC. And we see here he's switching weapons on the fly. He goes from a sword to the sort of Wyvern Lance, which, quickly he's able to do this sort of cool Dragoon smash to the ground, which is really cool. And then you see here he has Gladiolus, Ignis, and Prompto fighting alongside of him. The combat is very much sort of bouncing from target to target to target, using warp to dodge, switching weapons on the fly. Here we see that Dragoon pounce again, really just zipping around the battlefield as the AI is handling Gladiolus, Ignis, and Prompto. So here we have something really cool. We have it seems like this happened when, we're trying to figure out exactly why this or how this team attack occurred, but it seems like this blue bar with every strike was going up a little bit, and when it reached the top, Noctis and Ignis were able to do this, team attack, and it seems like right here you're able to do attack, and it's this X slash, which is, anyone who played Chrono Trigger even will know that this has been a team strike that Chrono and Cloud had, or Chrono and Frog had back in the day. So really cool animation. I imagine Noctis is going to have these sort of attacks with Gladiolus and with Prompto as well, and maybe Prompto will be able to have one with Ignis, and Gladiolus will be able to have one with Prompto. So just a lot of cool depth to the trailer, and you also see to the attacks, and you also see in the upper right-hand corner, the radar has these sort of small red dots that represent the enemies, and throughout the demo, there's a ton of enemies. You see here, if you notice in the bottom left-hand corner, the weapons have been replaced by, it seems like active abilities that your party members have, and so you boost up here to Ignis, who's now referring to Noctis as Noct and not Your Highness anymore, which I think is pretty interesting. It seems like this might be a little later on in the game when they've been on the road for a long time and they're slightly less formal with each other. So Ignis is going to throw Mark, which is it obviously marks the enemy, but also sort of freezes them in a stasis, which allows Noctis from down here to warp up there and immediately take him out. And that was sort of an upgraded enemy, the Magic Tech Axemen, which I imagine if you tried to just fight him head on would take a while. That would be an actual fight, and so being able to do that one-hit kill is going to be huge. You see here Prompto's sort of flashbang grenade attack. Shoots it into the sky, it blinds the enemies, they're all staring at it, but it also illuminates the area, which is interesting that a lot of these abilities seem like, yes, they will impact how the battle system unfolds, but also, it'll actually impact the environment, which is something we see a little bit later with the first use of magic. And of course, Gladiolus, who's your big tank, he does a Tempest attack, which is just a huge area of effect, sort of sweeping sword attack, which was in episode Dusk Sky, you might remember. Right here, Noctis is being sort of tailed by this enemy gunner on a turret. You flash up there, kill him from behind, and then you pop into the back of the turret and you're able to operate it, and you see, more destruction and more just carnage and explosions and these boxes being ripped apart. And again, some people saw this and were like, this isn't my Final Fantasy. This turret was featured again in 2011 back in some of the original Versus 13 footage. So this, alongside the floating swords and then the character we see at the end, is all stuff that we've sort of seen for the last 5 years that this game's been in development, but it's now slowly making a comeback. You see here, evidently blowing that thing up gave you 45 whole first aids, so congratulations, Noctis. You've done it. And then here at the end, you see we're fighting finally one of these Magitech armor, which seems like this giant boss fight. The way Noctis is able to target various parts of the armor. You're able to sort of attack the legs, you're able to attack the guns, you're able to attack the back. And it seems like you almost get a pro tip here of the smart way to take it out is to target the leg, and then he's going to do this warp attack, which is huge, which does a ton of damage. It's a break, damage 1.5, a break, which I imagine is like a stagger. But also you see all this oil starts going everywhere, and you're like, yeah, that's pretty cool looking. Like if that's just like a sort of accoutrement on it, that's really cool. But it actually comes into play in a second. We see here an upgraded version of the defend, the dodge, the dash that you were able to do in Dusk Sky, where you sort of just hold the defend button as long as you have MP, you're able to avoid incoming projectiles. And right now we get our first view of fire, which is that's a whole bunch of fire, a lot to talk about there. And so Tabata-san said that the way magic works in the game is it's going to really change depending on the environment. And so you see here, you have the oil on the ground, so it creates a bigger explosion. You have these wooden structures to the right that it's also burning. They said not only is that with fire, but with blizzard, if you use it on bodies of water, it'll freeze them over, and the same thing with lightning. So it seems like, not only will magic play a big part in the combat itself, which you see, obviously, the left-hand weapon slot went from the Zweihander to the fire attack, but also maybe it'll play into environmental puzzles, or like the way you navigate and interact and speak with the world, which seems really cool, and something that, Final Fantasy really hasn't done before, but yeah, pretty exciting stuff. And then you see here, we get a look at this new character. It's Aranea High-Wind, and according to Square, quote, she's commander of Niflheim's 3rd Army Corps, 87th Airborne Division, and a skilled aerial combatant known as a Dragoon within the Imperial military. So we get a look at this adversary. She seems like she is the person in charge of this Niflheim base, and she's a Dragoon, which is obviously one of those classes and tropes that have been a part of the series for a very long time. She might look new to you for if you haven't been following the game too long, but again, she's one of the other things that we saw her back 2011. We saw footage of Versus 13 when it was more in this more sort of downtown Tokyo at night setting. So she's something that's definitely been around since Nomura was working on the game, and now that Tabata's working on it, a lot of stuff's being kept. And so we have there's a screenshot gallery where you get better views of her, but yeah, she seems like she's definitely the person guarding the space, and the person you're going to have to fight when you get to the end of this. It's really cool. Money shot right at the end. And then, of course, the logo and the music. The other big thing that came out of this active time report is the fact that, yes, the game is coming out in 2016, but on March 30th at 7 p.m. Pacific, Square is holding a Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered event down in LA, where they're going to officially announce what the release date is. Imagining later this year, I would probably think fall. Early or late summer, early fall. We'll know for sure on March 30th. They also mentioned that there's going to be another demo. Now, whether that demo is just a small slice of the actual game, or if it's something completely removed, like Episode Dust Sky, or how it's going to be delivered, we don't know yet. But yeah, March 30th, we're going to have a lot more info. So for everything else Final Fantasy, leading up to this event, leading up to its release, and long after, you're already in the right place. IGN.com.